Hey,
Go ladies. Woo!
everyone. Thank you for jumping on our Tuesday testimonial. I am Nicole. I've been with Plexus for about 3 years now and enjoying every minute of it. I am just so grateful to be able to share my journey with you along with these 3 other ladies that are going to be sharing their bits and pieces of Plexus, because you wouldn't believe there are so many different positives under Plexus that we would literally individually be here for a day just talking about our own personal experience. So we're going to give you a quick overview. And the big thing with Plexus is it focuses on our gut health. And when our gut health gets in check, so many different things, resolve, get better, heal, makes us feel so much better. So one of the things that I suffered from was fibromyalgia and carpal tunnel. And when I was told by the doctor like 5-ish years ago that I had fibromyalgia, I was like furious. I thought it was a bogus diagnosis. Literally the rheumatologist was saying that it was all in my head. And so it pissed me off. And she just wanted to put me on pain meds, and I did not want to do that. There was no way I wanted to deal with all of the side effects from it. And so I started to play around with, well, how am I going to be able to do this? So I just, for a couple years, suffered through the pain, and that meant getting in the car, driving 10 minutes down the road, and when I get out of the car, I felt like I was an old lady and my kids would laugh at me. My hips would hurt so badly. My legs would be almost numb. And then, of course, I didn't know at that point I had carpal tunnel, but I would have feeling in my fingers. And literally, no kidding, just driving for 10 minutes. Never mind not being able to run around with my son, who at that point was around 2-3 years old. And so that was really hard. And my daughter, she wanted me to color with her all the time, and I couldn't because my wrists would hurt so badly. And when I discovered Plexus, it was not for me personally, it was for my son. That's another story, another time. I started the products and not understanding that taking a probiotic was actually going to help my pain. I was just thinking I was bettering my immune health. I didn't think it was going to help any type of this fibro pain or any of the carpal tunnel. And especially since my carpal tunnel's in both of my wrists, and I have fine and gross motor loss in both hands. So I was like, there's no way any of this is going to help those aspects. And I found out around, it was about, I'm going to say month 3 and 4, that my pain level was going down. And I couldn't believe it. I was able to drive and the pain wasn't as bad. I was able to move. I was able to get out of bed without it. I laugh about it now, but when I would wake up in the morning prior to Plexus, I would sit up as slow as I could, move my legs over the bed, hold on to my nightstand, and very carefully try to just stand without my feet hurting and without my knees hurting and without my lower back really hurting. Because I hated sleeping because I knew when I would wake in the morning, I would be in so much pain. So I would have to say when I first realized that the Plexus products were working was when I could wake up in the morning and just get out of bed. And that was just incredible. And I couldn't believe that it is still mind-boggling to me, even though I understand the science of all of it, that because I've balanced out my gut, killing off the yeast, that the inflammation that the fibro was causing in the carpal tunnel, I was I can move, I can do things. I've been working in my yard, things that I couldn't believe that I could be doing, and then still do supper and still, you know, go to the grocery store, even though it's a little different now, but that's another story. Um, uh, it's just incredible how much of a change the products have made for me. And I'm just beyond grateful. And now I'm just going to ramble because there's so much more I could say. So, with that being said, sorry, with that being said, again, I want to thank you for joining us. And I'm going to pass the screen over to Miss Marie.
All right. Thank you very much, Nicole.
You're welcome.
I'm Marie Gilligan. Tonight I am sharing my daughter Claire's story. She is 18 months old now. So you ask, what the heck? She's a baby. I've been taking Plexus for over a year. March was a year for me personally. That's a whole other story. And I actually had my children on the kids' vitamins. I have 2 older girls as well. They're 5 and 4 right now. I have 3 girls. They were actually, I used them as a guinea pig when the vitamins for about 6 months before all of this. So that's how I had heard about Plexus. And it was 3 months before I actually had Claire. I started them. And I had Claire in October of 18. Very normal. I had a C-section, but very normal birth. She was my 3rd C-section. She came out screaming. She was an even 8 pounds. Beautiful little baby, perfect skin, perfect everything, right? Your babies are perfect. And I was breastfeeding, and approximately, it was right when I went back to my full-time job. It was right on 12 weeks. We had always noticed she had some baby acne. Everyone said it was baby acne. And in January, right when I went back to work, her skin just blew up, and I hadn't changed my diet. Nothing was different. Nothing was different. Yeah, it was winter, but that was it. And, you know, they say mommy's intuitions are worth something. And she broke out like I've never seen before. And I freaked out and I called the doctor, and they were like, bring her in. It's just probably a rash. She might have an allergic reaction to something simple. We'll take care of it. This is right at the beginning of January. And it was awful. They diagnosed her immediately. Her skin was seeping. I'm going to share a picture in a little bit and just brace yourself. Her skin was seeping. And, you know, I stepped in and I said, something's wrong here. And they gave me some creams, and they said, here's some medicine, here's some antibiotics. She had a staph infection on her skin. She was weeping. I mean, my 12-week-old baby, I was like, something's wrong. So we gave her some steroids, which I was horrified about. I continued to breastfeed because no one ever said anything about allergies. Not one person, not one doctor. And of course, I'm late at night Googling, why is my baby's skin rashy? This is not baby acne. And with lots of research and lots of questions to a lot of people, and Google, you know, pictures and befores and afters and all this stuff, I realized it had to be allergies. It had to be. There was no other way. Her skin was reacting like I've never seen it. And everything I read related to something I was eating because I was breastfeeding her. And I was not willing to give that up. I wasn't. It was too easy for me. My kids were great breastfeeders, every single one of them, the other 2. And I had plenty of milk. Even if I had to pump it, I was fine. But I needed to make sure she got what was best for her. And I finally started asking the doctor, do you think this is allergies? And she's like, well, you know, what do you think? And I'm like, my doctor asked me that a few times. And I ended up taking the top 8 allergens plus a little more out of my diet. It was right at the beginning of January. I said, screw it, I'm going cold turkey. Because they were like, well, you can take dairy out. That's usually the number one. And maybe nuts and maybe eggs. But you let us know how it goes. So I went crazy. I took everything out. Everything. And I lost a lot of weight. That was great. Baby weight was gone. It didn't feel good though. Again, whole other story. And that's all I did right away is take that out. Still, her skin wasn't getting any better. And they say it could take a few weeks. So I gave it that time. Through all of this, ended up talking to my sponsor, Andrea Violet. And she was like, have you thought about it all being related to gut? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've read that a lot. I had been on a probiotic before, nothing was working. Long story short, realized everything I was Googling was coming back to gut health. And plexus kept popping up. And I'm like, oh, I'm already using the kids' vitamins. Why don't I just try this? So we had taken her to a dermatologist at this point, and they were like, oh, it's just cold out. That man deserves his license to be taken away. I wrote him a nasty note. I took her to a dermatologist. My doctor was like, I don't know, what do you think? And basically, I took her to the allergist. In the state of Maine where we live, it was very hard to get an allergy appointment for a pediatric allergist. Finally got her in. He looked at her and he's like, she's allergic to something. But her skin was so bad from head to toe, there was not enough skin in her body that was clear that they would even test her. So he's like, how long have you been allergen free? And I was hardcore. I ate nothing for 8 weeks to try and do this for my child. And my milk was starting to take a hit, my milk supply, and it was getting to the point where I was desperate. So I ended up ordering the triplex for myself, and I heard somewhere, and I asked her allergist, can I give her the probiotic too? It's all about gut health. Let's heal her. And he approved it. And he's like, at this point, you have nothing to lose. At this point, we took her home. This was in March of 2019. And we had to wet wrap therapy my baby. I will spare you those photos. For 5 days, because they basically told me, we're going to admit her to the hospital or you're going to do this. And I have 2 other children at home and a full-time job. I have to do it at home. My husband was an amazing support. We wet wrapped her with gauze 3 times a day. And thank God she was still little. And you take a bath. It's a 30-minute bath with a wet wrap all over her body. And I'm talking face too. And then watching her like a hawk to make sure everything, doesn't get on her nose, which I was so paranoid about. And finally, within 2 weeks of me personally taking the triplex, which includes the ProBio 5, and then I was taking high doses just to kind of start that whole process for myself. And then hopefully it was passing through my breast milk to her. I was opening a capsule of the ProBio 5 and putting it in a little bit of breast milk and giving it to her with a syringe every night before bed. I gave her about a quarter, and we worked up to a half. We're at a half right now, and she's 18 months because she's also now taking the kids' vitamins. So I went through that whole process, and fast forward approximately 3 weeks of ProBio 5 in her system directly, plus coming from me. She's like a different kid. Her skin was clearing. It was towards the end of April, and I was really worried I wasn't going to be able to get her clear because the allergist, I had another appointment coming up, and I was like, I know she's allergic to something, but I need you to tell me what it is so I can appropriately identify and deal with that. And she was getting, she was going to be 6 months in June. She was almost 6 months at that April point. She was born in October, and I wanted to start feeding her foods. And there was no way I was doing that without that. So brought her back into the allergist at the end of April, and he looked at me and he was like, is this the same baby? And I was like, yeah. And he asked me what I did, and I told him, and he was like, oh, keep doing that. Whatever you do, don't stop. Gives me the chills thinking about it to this day. And I went and we tested her. She tested positive for dairy, eggs, peanuts, pistachios, a whole bunch of other things. Dogs, which we have 2 of, that was a whole other story, that are supposed to be hypoallergenic, but they have dander, so she was allergic to that. And he said, just manage it, make sure that you're keeping that out of your diet. I introduced gluten back in. That was the best day ever. And we kept taking the ProBio 5, and she's a new baby. I truly believe in talking now to a naturopath, and I'm going to, I think you disabled the screen sharing, Nicole, so I can't share that screen. If you can let me be the host, I would take it. If not, I can send you guys a picture. We can send it with a link too, Nicole. But I think the key here was she healed herself with that ProBio 5. Her gut was healed. Best news ever is we did do some in-office testing. She is anaphylactic to peanuts, but nothing else. That was kind of at the year mark. The wonderful news is that she now tolerates baked eggs and baked dairy. So we'll do some additional, I'll share this screen with you guys. Let's see if this works. Share. So this is my baby. When she was, it was right in the middle. Can you guys see the baby? Everyone, okay. The left picture is Claire. Her whole body looked like that. Whole body, head to toe. I was going to share a whole picture, but didn't want to horrify you guys. And then the left is literally middle of April. So it was right at the beginning of April when I first started the ProBio 5. That was my before picture with the doctor for her. And the second picture was literally same exact time in April, about a month ago, I think is when I took that picture. It was her first piggy tails. And I mean, she's a different kid. She can tolerate baked eggs, baked dairy. We haven't tried the peanuts, but we've had her blood tested for the IgE, which is the allergen levels of what you're allergic to. And she has since gone down in everything, which her allergist said was amazing news, that she's growing out of it. So I can only say the healthier her gut is, I feel, one day we might be out of this. The peanut scares me. We're anaphylactic to that. We had a reaction in the doctor's office with the doctor present. It was controlled, scary, but controlled. But those levels have gone down too. So he basically is leaving that up to me when I'm ready to retest, which might be when she's like 15, because I'm terrified. But yeah, I mean, we control it with not giving her the allergen, the allergic stuff she's allergic to. And then the ProBio 5, and it's amazing, because I have to say, we give it to her every night, but me and my husband are human. There might be a night she misses it. And when she does, then a day or two, when I think it's out of her system, the ProBio 5 itself, because she does take the vitamins pretty much every day, she'll get little spots in her hands, and I'll notice. And I'm like, we forgot it 2 nights ago. And it's amazing. It tells a story. And I think she's healthy. And, they say it takes you X amount of years to heal for however many years you were truly not well. And she was a baby. She was 12 weeks old when all this went down. And, people say there's a lot to it. I will say, especially for anybody listening to this, we did also get her tested. I don't know who's heard of it, but the MTHFR gene, she does have one of the mutations. That is something I learned through Plexus in all of the true vitamins we take, make sure they're not synthetic, make sure they're pure form. And her body doesn't handle toxins well. So when she was allergic to this food, how her body freaked out was eczema, because it was all inside. It was eczema. The best thing I ever heard was eczema is your skin telling you on the outside, the inside of your body is freaking out. The way to tell you, because especially as a baby, she can tell us that. So yeah, it's an amazing turnaround. She is a happy, healthy little girl. She's so funny. And there's not a spot on her body. And I can't say enough good things about being a part of Plexus, the community, the support from the ladies, there's men too, of course, and the amazing. Look at the picture. I have nothing else to say.
I know, it is incredible. I just can't imagine what you guys went through. I am so thankful that you were able to find Plexus and be able to get your girly back on track. I'm really excited for you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for letting me share. And if there's any questions, let me know.
Definitely. Oh, I'm speechless about it. All right, Miss Amanda, you're up, girl.
Oh, I don't know how I'm going to follow that. I have goosebumps all over my body. Oh my goodness. My name is Amanda West, and I am currently a gold ambassador with Plexus. I never ever expected to hit any sort of rank with this company. I was probably the biggest of all skeptics, and I learned about Plexus by watching my best friend from college. She was someone who had severe allergies, needed her inhaler all of the time. Anywhere we went to a concert one time and they had a smoke show, and we left the concert in an ambulance, and she needed like 4 nebulizer treatments that night. So, when I'm watching her and she's talking about this pink drink, and then all of a sudden she's running half marathons and marathons, I'm like the person I know, so it was just, pretty crazy, caught my eye. I had a really, it was at a time that I didn't realize I was going to need something like this. So my Plexus story, it just kind of starts out with me, becoming a mom. Becoming a mom of 2 littles, it just really changed my body drastically. And I was always that person who had sinus infections and horrible allergies every spring. And, they always prescribe you Z-Pak, and it was like spring and fall, and you always had those things, major stomach issues. In high school as a kid, I remember I came home for lunch every day. We had open campus because it was like my stomach was just the worst. And, carry on into my adult life. After I had my daughter, she was about 1.5, and we just had, this bomb, dropped on our family. My daughter turned 1 in June. And in the beginning of July, my 15-year-old stepson took his life. And it just completely and utterly shocked our family. At the end of that month, I found out that I was pregnant with my son, Emmett. And so we just had this enormous change, happen all at once with our family. We were trying to go to work, and we just had this massive wave of grief and anxiety and depression, and it just, nothing felt right. So we decided as a family that following spring that we were just going to, sell our house and pick everything up. My husband decided to switch jobs, so we moved to the southern coast of Maine and just kind of started over. And so I went from being, a working mom more than full time. I had my son in April, and on the 25th, and my husband started his new job on May 15th. So we literally packed our house up, moved down here, and I became like a stay-at-home mom of 2 littles. We were just completely isolated away from family. And so that postpartum depression and just all of that, hit me really hard. I was not getting any sleep. I literally walked the hallways at night from like 1:30 in the morning until 4:30 in the morning. I would just walk in, I would check on everybody in their rooms. I would try to, clean my house and get things done, but it was like literally things just piling up, and like one job never got done. I just couldn't focus. And so I just, I just didn't feel like myself at all. And so that's, when I noticed my friend Sarah posting, and we decided to take a big change in our health. We were grieving, and consuming food was a part of our grief. And, it happens with a lot of people. And so we just decided we were done with that, and we were going to detox off of food. So we started with some intermittent fasting, and I did pretty good. I was proud of myself. I have a degree in physical education and health, and I've been a personal trainer, so I knew all of the things. But when tragedy and stuff like that strikes, you're not really thinking clearly. But I lost 52 pounds on my own. And then we went for family pictures a couple Septembers ago, and I remember just being so excited. I had like a new dress. We were like, oh, this is so awesome. We went to this beautiful apple orchard. And then when we got the pictures back a couple of weeks later, I was like, I don't look like I feel good, like as good as I felt that day to go. I could just see so much swelling in my face. I looked extremely tired, and it just, I could just see inflammation, and my husband felt the same too. So I reached out to that friend who had been contacting me and chatting with me for almost a year, who I thought was really crazy. And I said, okay, we're ready to do this. And so I signed up as a preferred customer because I was still that skeptical. And so I started with the triplex, the microbiome slim, the bio cleanse, and the probio that Marie was telling you about. And after about a month, I started to notice, a little bit more energy. I didn't believe that it was really working. The first time I took a drink of my pink drink, I just felt really lightheaded. And I remember reaching out to my uplines and saying, what is this stuff for real? Like this, still didn't believe it. So a couple of months went by, and we had just some random family pictures done again, at a Halloween event. And I was wearing a snowsuit because when you're from northern Maine, you get to wear your snowsuits and your costume over your snowsuit to go out, just because that's the way the weather rolls, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, Jim, look at my face. I'm like, have I lost weight? Because I don't feel like I have. But what I forgot was that night when I went to tighten my coat, I hadn't worn it since the winter before when I was pregnant. And so I had like really tightened it. So I was like, hey, feeling pretty good, but didn't notice it because, you're getting two littles ready and it's chaos and Halloween and so it just little things like that started happening. I started sleeping so much better. I had really sore joints that summer. And we had moved to this place and there's about 20 stairs to come into our house. So I felt like I was, um, just knees, ankles, everything. And I was an athlete in school. So I just thought, wow, I'm getting to that age where you just kind of start feeling the things. But all of that went away. My stomach was better. I was actually going to the bathroom and my skin started, clearing up. It was just like all these little things. And during that time, one of the things I didn't mention was for me to have the energy, I had actually started drinking diet soda. And it ended up turning into just like, one a day to like a 12 pack and a half every other day, which was an awful lot of diet soda. And so by that February, I had completely detoxed off of it. And I haven't had any since. It was like this whole other journey with Plexus, once I completely detoxed all of the gross things that were hurting me. And so it's just been awesome, to have our life back where, we're out and we're hiking, and my husband has been doing the products as well. And he has, seen tremendous results as well, just, energy and focus in his mood to get his, his job done. And so we're just really blessed by this family, and, knowing Nicole and she reached out to me to share tonight. That has been the thing that I didn't even realize that I needed, was like this whole Plexus family. That's one of the best parts of this. When you sign up, you're not just, signing up and then on your own taking a product. You have all of these people that are cheering for you and supporting you and making sure that you don't fail. And, you just feel like you're just being carried by this just magical wave of positivity. So, that's my story. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out or message me. But thanks for inviting me tonight, Nicole.
You're so welcome. Amanda, I would obviously never have known you if it wasn't because of Plexus. Same with Marie and Laura. Ashley and I, of course, went to high school together, but Plexus is what reunited us. And I am so grateful that we're all here, and that, Amanda, that you were able to find something to help your family to literally really start fresh and to have a good new beginning. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. All right, Miss Ashley, I can't wait to hear from you.
So I've been involved with Plexus for 3 years, and I've heard so many testimonies, and sometimes I think we take for granted the improvements we've had and what these products have done for us. And even like I've heard Nicole's story several times, but hearing everyone tonight like reminds me of how impactful these products are and life-changing they are. And when I first joined Plexus, people would say life-changing, life-changing, life-changing. And I'd be like, I don't know about that. Like, they're probiotics. And I sort of thought it was like gimmicky. But now that I've been a part of this and seen these transformations, and I get to hear other people on our team share their experience, I'm like, okay, really is life-changing. I want to backtrack for a second back to Nicole's testimony, because I introduced Nicole to Plexus, and when we first started spending some time together, when she first started the products, we would take like little trips in the car, and literally just a 30-minute drive would leave Nicole in so much pain. She wouldn't say anything, but I would look over and she'd be like stretching her neck and sighing, and like that burden of pain, if anyone's had that, like it's so intense. And people who have had it for a long time don't say anything, we just bury it. So since then, since Nicole started the products though, like we've taken long road trips together. We flew to Las Vegas together, and she was like, as far as I know, Nicole, like you were not in that level of pain anymore. And like, she
Nope.
was like in the airport, you know, like having a good time. And it was just, it's incredible to see those changes firsthand.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will share my business testimony. I actually have a very big health testimony, but I think that my business testimony is really important to share because there may be other people who are in a similar situation to where I was 3 years ago. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of my health testimony because it's part of it. I had rheumatoid arthritis diagnosed at 18 years old, allergies, asthma, thyroid disease, eventually IBS. My immune system was crap, like pretty much just all the things. And I was a stay-at-home mother of 4 kids. I knew that I needed supplements for my health because of everything that I was reading everywhere. But I felt guilty for supplementing because I felt like because I wasn't working, I didn't want to spend our single income money on something just for me. And saying it out loud sounds ridiculous, but that's really how I felt. And so I tried really hard to take care of myself through a healthy diet. I really, like Marie was talking about with her daughter and how she took out all the common allergens. I took out all the common allergens, all the inflammatory foods. And honestly, I was just getting sicker. And I was sort of developing like an eating disorder too, because I don't know if you experience this, Marie, but you become so hyper focused on food that you like become obsessed. And I don't think it was entirely healthy, even though I was doing it for health reasons. So fast forward into like my mid 30s, I had my 4th baby, and you know, my health was just getting worse. So I needed to do something, but I had run out of options when it came to dietary interventions. My friend was sharing about Plexus, and I knew I needed it. And I felt so bad about purchasing it the first time that I didn't tell my husband. And we literally talk about everything, but I kept this a secret. But once I got started, I had results right away. My immune system started working. My eczema that I had for years went away entirely. I had severe joint pain from the rheumatoid arthritis. That started to lessen. My IBS went away completely. And so at that point, I was hooked. And so I felt like the money was worth it to spend that and feel better and be a better mother. I should make that investment. But I was also seeing at the same time that so many people around me I was hearing these sorts of testimonies from people that I knew. And I thought, if this is working for me and how very sick I was, and it's helping some, like a mother like Amanda who couldn't sleep at night and needed some help with her weight loss, I think that this is really going to be for everyone. And I like helping people. And so I just sort of started sharing about Plexus like very organically with friends and family. And I got to help them. And I had a lot of people get started and start to feel better. And it just motivated me to continue to share. And so I quickly started to earn enough through Plexus to cover the cost of my products. And then I put my entire family on the products, which interestingly enough has been great for us not getting sick as often because we're all taking them. We're just carrying less illnesses, and we're not spreading it around as much within our family unit, which prior to Plexus, we would spread it all around, and it was horrible. Like, one kid gets sick and you're like, it's coming for us. And so with the probiotics, they're all so much healthier that they don't get sick as often, and they're not passing it as much. It's interesting. Anyway, put my family on the products, and then I actually started to make money on top of that. And this became really incredible for our family because we were a family of 6, but we were living in a house that was really only big enough for probably 3 of us. And so as our kids were getting older, that need for like space and privacy was really becoming more apparent. And so we needed to sell our house and move into a bigger home. And having only had that single income for so long, it was kind of terrifying to try to get a bigger house and spend more money on it. But my income was growing and it was steady and I could count on it every month. And I said to my husband, like, I really want to just get this bigger house. I know I can help with the payments. And so we bought the house we're in now, almost 2 years ago now. And I literally have covered the mortgage payment since then. And I'm still paying for products. So it's relieved such a burden that we had, not only in caring for our health properly, but like doing what we needed to for our family. And I just feel incredibly grateful because I get to make this money to support my family by doing something that helps other people too. And so it's just an incredible thing to be a part of, not something I ever expected to be a part of, because I was like anti-network marketing before Plexus. I had a really bad attitude about it. And I have learned so much about this business since then and the amazing things that come with it that I wouldn't trade it for anything. I feel like I've gained so much beyond the health and the income that are things I didn't even know I needed, like the community and the, having goals to achieve. Like that was something that was missing from my life as a stay-at-home mom. And so like, I need that. That makes me a happier person. So Nicole, thank you for letting me share. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Thank you for sharing in all areas.
I know I covered everything. Sorry.
Well, no, I mean like sharing to me. Like that's how I started Plexus, was because you shared. And,
Yeah.
And it's really, when we love something, it's so easy to share about it. Like you go to a restaurant and you really enjoy it. It's a great experience. You go and you tell your friends, hey, I just went to, I don't know, whatever restaurant, and you say how yummy and fun it is and the service was great. Well, it's the same thing. We love Plexus and we love these products and we love the community so much. It's like, it's hard to keep it quiet. And there's so many benefits that goes along with sharing. So thank you so much for sharing all of that.
I'll also
and look
add,
at your hair and look at your skin. I remember 2 years ago watching you, and like you literally look like a different person. You are glowing.
Thank you.
Yes, gorgeous lady.
Oh, thank you, Laura. Nicole, I want to say too, like,
Yes.
so Nicole's son, Emery, was one of the first kids that, well, Nicole and I really worked together to try to get to the root issues that he was having, but he was one of the first kids that I got to help. And it just like, every time I hear his story, it gets to me. And that fuels me to keep sharing too, because of that, all the improvements that he's seen. Like, I can't even imagine where he'd be right now if he didn't have this, or where he'd be as an adult if he didn't have this. And the same with Marie's daughter. Like, it's just, we're making a big impact and it just feels amazing.
I ditto all of that. All of that. Oh my goodness. Does anybody have any questions while we're still on recording? Don't know if any of the Brittnys have questions or if any of you ladies have questions for each other. No?
Can I add something? Just especially to
Yeah.
Ashley's, just from the business side, because I know, I mean, I obviously have my own testimony, the business side. I've only been doing it a year, and I want to reiterate what Ashley said, because I think a lot of people get very hung up on the business side of it. And it was the same thing for me. I do have a full-time job, and I, in theory, can afford the products, but to be able to say to my husband, hey, you know, I'm going to get this up, and oh, and I'm also covering my own products, and hey, now I'm making a little money with it. Every little bit helps. And I think one of the biggest things for me is you're not selling something. You sharing it organically is truly just sharing what you have gone through, your friends have gone through. And, you know, I consider you all friends, and not met in person. Laura, you and I, we get that. But my point is that I think that's so important to hear, because so many people, and I'm only a silver, I'm not anything else, you know, and that's still good. I'm very happy, you know, it's very exciting. And I think that a lot of people get hung up on cold messaging, and you don't have to do that, right? Like, there's ways to share it organically. And I'll tell you, almost every single person I've signed has been that way, or they've heard about it, or I've been talking to them and they're like, oh my God, I get these crazy migraines. And I'm like, hey, and it's not, oh, have you heard about plexus? It's, have you heard about gut health? Have you heard that this might be related? And don't even start that conversation. Earn their trust and share your personal story, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And if you're not comfortable putting yourself out there, put me out there. Use me, you know, use Ashley's story, use Nicole's story, use Amanda's story. I think that's so important to hear, because we're willing to share that, because we do know how it will help you, and it might help somebody that you talk to that would then benefit you in the business side of it. And it's so true, because in theory, somebody said to me once, but aren't you in competition with all these ladies? And it's like, I guess I don't think that way at all. Like, yeah, it's cool. Like, if I sign someone versus, I don't think it's a versus, it's against. It's, we're all here to support each other. And that side of the business, I think, is so important, because you do hear a lot of negative things about the network marketing. And Ashley, I'm with you. I was against it. I mean, I work in sales in my other job in operations, and it's like, oh, I don't want to be a salesperson. And I don't consider myself a salesperson. I consider myself sharing my personal story and helping you help others. Because it's not about, is the money great? Sure. But it's about helping you, and to be able to sit there and know what you could have helped somebody come from. That to me is just, it's important to understand, because I think some people don't get that. And it's hard to get there. In a year from now, look back and see where you were. But I think that's a really important message that I've heard from a lot of you, and I like to share. And I'm still new, you know, I'm still fairly new. I'm a year in from sharing. And I didn't post for a long time. I didn't. Andrea kept bugging me, and I was like, no, I'm good. So it's important to remember, it's not about selling, it's about sharing.
That's exactly right, Marie. Yep. Again, I'm going to ditto everything you said. Ditto, ditto. Totally. We are one plexus, and it's a blessing. It is. Well, I am so glad that we all were able to come together today and to be able to share all our journeys. And even though we know that there's so much more to our own journeys to share, we at least were able to get a little bit of it out there to the world. And I am going to stop recording and bid you good night.